Hi, welcome to Code.io. This is day 3 of 100 days of code, and hope you're doing the code series along with us. And in this episode, we'll be solving the question called binary string. So, as the name suggests, you're given a binary string, and you're supposed to find the number of substrings that can be formed with this binary string that starts and ends with 1. Okay, it's quite simple, right? So, let us consider this example where we have 01101 as the string, as the binary string, and you're supposed to find the number of binary substrings that can be formed with this string that starts and ends with 0. So the obvious brute force approach that you could think of would be like finding every single substring that is possible and checking if it satisfies our condition, that is starting and ending with 1, right? That is one thing that you can do, and it will definitely produce our answer correctly. But we don't want that, right? Because it is quite inefficient. You're processing data needlessly. There is another small trick that you can do, and it is quite obvious. It is not that difficult, right? So we'll exactly see what it is now. So before getting into that, let me just first solve this particular input, right? So for this particular string, the possible substrings are 1 1, obviously with these two ones, 1 1 0 1 and 1 0 1, right? These are the three substrings that satisfy our condition, that is starting and ending with 1, right? So these are the three substrings. So the answer for this input should be 3. Okay, so I hope this is clear now. Now, how exactly do we find this without iterating through every possible combination, right? So that is what we are going to do now. Now, what you are going to do is you are going to start from the first one in the string. So let me just write this string again, 01101. So if you start with this one, the possible substrings that can be formed, how do we find that? For you to have a valid substring starting with this one, there should be another one apart from this to the right of this, right? However many you have, that much substrings you can form with this, right? I hope I'm not confusing you. So what I'm trying to tell is, if we have two ones to the right of our current one, like this is our current one, right? If we have two ones to the right of it, it means that you can form two substrings starting with this one, and those will be 1101 and 1 1, right? Because there are two ones. Let me just highlight, there are two ones apart from at what we are currently positioned at to the right of this, so we can form two substrings that starts and ends with 1, right? I hope this is clear. Now we can do the same thing for the rest of the string. Now let me just write it again, 01101, and we have covered this part of the string, right? We have done this for this particular one. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to consider it for this one, and just like that, without considering this one, we have to find the number of ones present to the right of it, and we have only 1. So the substring that you could form starting with our current position 1 will be 101. It is the only possibility, right? Because we only have one single one to the right of it, right? So that is what the substring that can be formed from starting with this one. So we have wound up with all three substrings with our condition, right? 1101, 11 and 101. Fine. So this is what we are going to do. So like we have discussed this logically. Now in order for you to code this, we will have to find initially you will have to find the number of ones number of ones present in this given string, right? So the number of ones present in this string is 3. Okay, it is quite simple to find this. You will find this. Now after this you will have to exactly perform what we have just discussed now. So however ones we might have in our string, we can never form a substring with only one character, which is 1, right? So what I am trying to tell is this can never be a substring that is valid. You cannot say that it starts and ends with 1 and it is a valid substring. That is not possible, right? So since we are ignoring this, for every substring that we need, we definitely need at least 2 ones in them, right? So what you can do is, we are going to reduce this number of ones by 1. Okay, so there is a lot of ones involved in this question. Just try to follow along. So what I am trying to tell is, you will always be present at the current one, which you cannot consider because you are already present at it. So you are just going to count the number of ones to the right of it, right? So when we were present at this one, we were adding, like we could find 2 substrings that are valid, right? Because leaving this one out, we had 2 ones left. Okay, that is exactly what we are going to do here. Since we are at our current one, leaving it, we will have 2 ones to the right of it, right? Because totally we had 3. And so with our current position 1, you could form 2 such cases, 2 such substrings that are valid. Now we are going to reduce the number of ones by, like we are going to reduce it one time, right? So 3 minus minus will give us 2, right? So with this you are going to proceed further. So like this, what essentially is, right? So we are moving from this ones, we are moving from this one to the next one, right? So we are currently present at this, and just like with the previous case, without considering our current position, we'll have 1 to the right of it. So we'll add that, we'll consider that. So 2 plus 1 gives us 3, and that is the answer that we want. So I hope I didn't confuse you too much, because I myself I can see that how this could be confusing. It is not that difficult. You'll understand this way better when we code this. But yeah, so it involved a lot of ones in my words, so that might be a little confusing. So just see the coding, you'll understand it clearly. Now we'll move to the coding part. Now, as we already discussed, we are first going to find the number of ones present in the string, right? So I'm just going to create a variable called count1 and initialize it to 0. Now in order for us to count, we are just going to traverse through this string, check if our current character is 1, and increment this count1 variable, right? So for int I equals 0, I less than n. So here we have given the value n, which is the length of the string, right? So if our current character, that is a of I, is in fact a 1, we are going to increment the value of count. So when the control of the program comes out of this loop, we'll have the total number of ones present in this particular string, right? So now we are just going to perform our next step, which is considering one particular one and finding the number of ones to the right of it and adding it to the answer, right? So we'll first create a variable called answer and initialize it to 0. Okay, and to traverse this string, right, to traverse this one, like for every single one, we are going to use while loop, and we are going to check if count1 is greater than 0, because we are going to use that loop, and we'll decrement the count variable, right? We are going to decrement the count1 variable for every iteration. So we'll just see if count1 is greater than 0. Okay, now since we always ignore the current position, that is to find a substring or to find the number of substrings that can be formed with our current starting number of 1, you'll have to ignore this and see the number of ones to the right of it, right? So in order for us to account for that, I'm just going to decrement the value of count by 1 initially. Okay, so this might be a little confusing. I'm just going to explain it once again. We are at our current position, right? We are at a 1, which is our current position, and to form a string we have to count the number of ones to the right of this excluding this one, and the count 1 value that we currently have is the total number of ones including our current position 1, right? So we are decrementing 1 from the count value, and hence it will give us the number of ones to the right of our current one, and that we can add to answer, right? That we can add to answer, and we have done it. Now we are just going to move our current pointer to the next one, and what will that do? That will reduce the number of ones that are present to the right of it. So we are just going to decrement count 1. Okay, so I hope I'm making sense here. We are at our current 1, and the number of substrings that can be formed that are valid will be the number exactly will be the number of ones that are present to the right of it without including our current position. So since we know our total number of ones including our current position, we are just decrementing it by 1. That is this statement, right? So initially we had 3 ones in total, and since we are at our current first one, we are ignoring that, so we are decrementing it by 1, right, and adding it to the answer. So we can form 2 substrings starting with our first one, and since we have done this and we are moving to our second one, we have to decrement the total number of available ones, right, because we have just processed 1. So that is why we are giving this count 1 minus minus, and this actually does it, and it is it's done, right? And we are just going to return the answer that we have just calculated, right? So I hope this is it. We'll just try and run this and see if it works. So our code has been accepted and it has passed every single test case. I hope you got this question properly, you understood this properly. If you have any doubts, please let me know in the comments, because I'm not entirely sure if every one of you understood this question, right? It's quite hard for me to explain. The logic itself is quite simple, but I feel it is quite hard for me to explain it to you. So yeah, put them in the comments and I'll try to help you as much as possible. And if you have solved this question, post it in LinkedIn and tag me in, so I can see it and be happy about it as well. And about this new space, right? So I have moved to my hostel now, so it's quite inconvenient here, but yeah. So let me know if the quality is alright and it is manageable. I know it is not as good as the previous one, but yeah, this is the best I could do. Hope you understand. Okay, thank you so much for watching. See you on tomorrow's video. Bye.